Dan, just testing my microphone. Can you hear me?
I hear you, Denver.
Perfect.
Yep. How you doing?
Good.
Oh, hi. That's really weird.
All right, it is 11:30, but we're still waiting on some commission members to show up before we can get started. Hopefully have quorum here in a few minutes, so I appreciate you bearing with us. All right, looks like we don't yet have quorum, but I'm gonna go ahead and start by going through our preamble and rules and regulations with the hope that by the time we're done, we have quorum. So this is the October 19th, 2023 meeting of the Ohio City Design Review Committee. Our virtual meeting regulations and procedures. The meeting shall be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Recusal due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the start of any presentation. Committee members will then leave the meeting for the duration of the case discussion. In this case, we'll put you in the lobby. No presentation submissions will be accepted after the deadline. The chair will call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call of the committee. The administrator will introduce the first project and provide some background information if applicable. The meeting will then be turned over to the applicant to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the committee. Once the presentation has concluded, the administrator will read any received comments. The committee will then begin deliberations and project review. Please use the raised hand feature if you would like to speak. After deliberations and review concludes, the committee will render its recommendation and vote. After the vote, the applicants may leave the meeting and the administrator will introduce the next project. All projects will follow the same format until all projects are heard by the committee. Once all projects are heard, the chair will call for any committee or administrator reports. After all reports have been heard, the chair will adjourn the meeting. As far as community comments go, any and all community members may provide their written comments, thoughts, or questions regarding the projects presented to the committee for review and approval. Community members may also telephone their comments or questions to the committee administrator. All comments, thoughts, or questions must be submitted to the committee administrator no later than 48 hours prior to the start of the meeting. Again, submissions can be made by email, phone, or mail, or dropping off a letter. Public comment or submissions made after the deadline will not be heard by the committee. Public comment will be collected by Landmark staff and sent to the committee members for review prior to the scheduled meeting. Staff will summarize the received comments. The applicant of the project is under no obligation to answer any community questions. Community members are invited to attend the design review committee meetings, but there will be no open public comment period. As a reminder, all projects follow the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. All projects are being considered for the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. All projects are considered on a case-by-case basis, and the Ohio City Design Review Committee is advisory to the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. Recommendations by this committee are not final actions. Depending on the scope of the project, submissions may be approved administratively or will need to be reviewed by the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. Projects will be scheduled at the next available commission meeting after an action is taken. So with that being said, it looks like we have quorum, but I don't see Mr. Wall here. So is Nia, Chris, Margaret, any one of you want to act as chair? Not everyone all at once.
I can do it, Dan.
All right. Thank you, Margaret. Then would you like to call the meeting to order and I can proceed with roll call?
I will call the October 19th meeting of the Ohio City Design Review to order.
All right. Mr. Frondorf?
Here.
Didn't even see her there before. Ms. Flaherty? She said she would be joining us a little late. Ms. Lamb?
Here.
Mr. Lozier? Ms. Marinucci?
Here.
Mr. Persons?
Here.
Mr. Talley?
Here.
And Mr. Wall. All right, Madam Chair, we have quorum. Our first project today is case number OC 23-49, the 45 West project, which we saw, I guess it was last month. So before I hand things over to Chad to start his presentation, we will need a motion and a vote to untable.
I'll move to untable.
All right, thank you. And do we have a second?
I can second.
Okay, thank you. All right. Proceeding with the roll call for that, Mr. Frondorf,
Yes.
Ms. Land,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
Ms. Marinucci,
Yes.
Mr. Persons,
Yes.
and Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
All right. Madam Chair, the motion to untable passes. So at this point, we'll hand things over to Chad, who I think we all know, to walk us through his current proposal. And it looks like Denver Bricker is here from VOCON as well. So I guess, yeah, whoever you guys want to handle your presentation, let me know when you want me to click through the slides.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. So after the last meeting we attended, we went back, clarified some details. Denver and his team went and made some changes, implemented some different lighting, cleared up where we've got it. A number of minor improvements to the plans, but significant overall. Wanted to also touch base on a couple things. You know, we have the city is working on the transportation demand zoning, and we believe we'll be able to meet the requirements with our project. For that, Denver has outlined where some bike storage is and things of that nature are on the property, but our intention is also to do that, so that'll help with our parking requirements. I mean, it's zoning, but figure it's important to bring up now. Even hearing and reading some public comments, I wanted to point out that we, at all of our properties in the neighborhood, even retrofitted some, we have electric car charging stations. So we will be, very pro that as well. And so that'll be implemented into the buildings. Usually we'll put them outside. So this will be something that neighbors and other members of the community or visitors will be able to utilize for themselves as well. But I will let Denver kind of go through the details of what's been updated, and we'll go from there and answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. Good morning. We're back, and we took to heart all of the comments, and so over the course of the last few weeks, further developed the design, made some adjustments, and incorporated a lot of additional detail that was the next step in any case. And I think now it shows through with the renderings. So next. We're all familiar with the site, so we'll go next. A little bit of the context next. And again, the last time we spoke a little bit about the incident of taller buildings adjacent to lower scale buildings within the historic district. Next. A little closer with the site. Next. And the immediate context, just to remember where we are, how it looks today. Next. And then the site plan. One of the discussion items that came up during the last meeting had to do with the new alley along the north edge of the building. After looking at the street configurations and traffic and reviewing it with the development team, we have made the change to make it a one-way alley with entrance off of 45th and exit onto 44th. So that was an update in response to the comments from the last meeting. We also adjusted the tree spacing on 45th, more in keeping what the street tree would have been on that street. Right now it's very spotty because a number of trees have died and cut down, but what we're putting back there is in line with what would have been there. Next. The basic configuration of the buildings have not changed since the last time. So from left to right, on 45th, we have what we're calling Building 1, and then Building 2 in the middle with frontage on Lorraine, and Building 3 to the east on 44th. Next. Both buildings 1 and 3 are 3 stories, and then building 2, 5 stories with the setback off of Lorraine. Next. These are all the setbacks that we had at the previous meeting. We've not changed the locations of the building. Would point out that building 2, which there was some discussion with respect to how far it was back from the site. The building does have a irregular north facade. You'll see that in the renderings. And so 28 foot is the minimum setback. But the larger face of that building is another 15 feet back from the property line. So I think that the building is making a good, significant setback from the property line from the earlier version of this project. Just wanted to address that point. Next. This is the just perspective view of the general massing for the project. And this also notes that new information that we added to this in response to some of the bicycle questions. There are a number of accommodations within and outside of the building for bicycle parking, with currently a total of 66 bike rack spaces throughout the property. Next. So here we are on 45th, looking south. This is the current view, and then the next view, the updated rendering. Next. So the configuration is the same. What is different here, and we'll just immediately leap to the next rendering a little bit closer. What we've done in response and as a part of the overall design process since the last time is really thoughtfully make our way around each of these buildings and enhance the proportions, refine the detailing. So what you're seeing here with this elevation are expressed corner boards, trims at the windows, rake trims, a gable trim band, and then the next, go to the next rendering. We, at each of the entry points to the building, to the walk-up entrances, enhanced the entrance with lighting, extended the canopy across that inset, and then used a combination of fiber cement panel and fiber cement trim to create a whole entry component, whereas before it was a little more played down, less rich in terms of its detail. Next. Now we're on Lorraine and 45th, looking east. The general massing still very much the same. There was some refinement made with the proportions of the windows and articulation of the balconies. We also, as we get into the building 2 and see it a little bit more, we've adjusted color, details, and a number of other things, and I will walk through that as the renderings lend themselves to that part of the conversation. Next. So here we are on Lorraine. We do have lighting at each of those masonry piers at the first floor. And if you were to zoom in, I don't think we have an image there. We have added a lot of masonry detail to the first floor. There was some comments from the last time with respect to giving it a more prominent base and to distinguish it. And so we've done that with the brick coursing around the windows, the soldier coursing between the first and second floor to start to do those things. We think that it's richer, more significant first floor presence. There you can see that in this zoomed in image. All right, and we can go to the next image. No change in terms of how we're handling the existing historic building. We're maintaining the gabled roof portion of it immediately fronting Lorraine, and then a soft transition between it and the new building. Next. Now we're rotated. We're on Lorraine and 44th, and we can see building 3 in the foreground, building 2 in the background. One of the things that we've done, we'll see that in the elevations here shortly with building 2. There was some discussion the last time about modulating the length of the building, some interest in additional detail. What we've done, and you'll see that, is that we've kept it pretty subtle. We still, as we looked at this and studied it in terms of creating a lot of variation along that length, it became busy and actually maybe a little visually messy. So our thought is to keep things streamlined, but we used a vertical trim detail that modulated the building in bays along its length that gave it some scale without making it visually busy. Next. And here we are on 44th, looking at the east face of building 3 and the drive alley to the north. We made some adjustments to the bay on this end of the building, separated the windows, changed from the lap siding to the fiber cement panel and batten detail there, just as a distinctive street-facing element, more so than the bays that run along the north and the south faces, and added the same trim details that we added on building 1 in terms of a trim detail of the first floor, rake and eave trim details as a fiber cement. Next. We're on 44th, looking south. Next. And then the new image with building 3 inserted in. And as we stated the last time, we believe that the gable forms are very much in keeping with the character of the single-family homes to the north of the site. Next. And we have the 2-dimensional elevations. We can walk through each of these. They all highlight all of the trim that we've added to the buildings. This is the west face of building 1, so we're on 45th. This face of the building is all fiber cement panel, fiber cement trim, painted in colors that will be identical to or complementary to the vinyl siding on the ends and east face of the building. Next. This is a revamp of the east elevation of the building. There was some discussion at the last meeting about it being a little too simple. So here we've modulated the length of the building, highlighting where the stairs are, which kind of balance the overall composition, and aggregated the second and third floor windows together in these vertical moments that kind of create a rhythm along the facade, and added additional color that I think does a nice job of breaking up the facade and making it feel very much a part of what's happening on the street face. Next. This is the north elevation where the small gable end is. The return is in fiber cement lap siding, and then transitions to vinyl for the larger mass to the left. Next. And then similarly on the south side, the fiber cement wraps around the end of the lower gable and then transitions to vinyl for the remainder of the facade. Next. South elevation of building 2. I think earlier the renderings described pretty much everything that we're doing here. So we'll keep going. Next. And then the north end of the building. And you'll see that we've just kind of reaffirming where we're going with this in terms of the siding color, floors 2, 3, and 4, and the light kind of taupe colored siding, and then topped by a vertical board and batten vinyl siding that's a little bit darker. So a fairly simple color palette. Next. And then along the east face, here you can see the vertical trims that kind of separate each vertical group of windows that modulates the length of the building, where the balconies are not in those locations. And I mean, we heard the committee. I mean, I think there was varied opinions in terms of how to approach this elevation. And we feel that this architectural resolution and level of detail and color is an appropriate way to handle a building of this size. Next. And then this is the west elevation of the same building, handled in a similar way. Next. This is building 3, the north elevation facing the drive alley. What we've done is taken the fiber cement on the east face of the building in the darker color, wrapped it around till it hits the first bay, and kind of around the garage doors at the first level, and then transition to vinyl siding for the balance of this elevation. Again, adding all of the trim details that you've seen in all of the other images. And we'll point out that what we're doing, there's a few ways that trim on vinyl siding can be handled. One is to use the standard trims that are available within the manufacturers. That's fairly limiting, and so we're not proposing that here. We're going to be using a combination of AZAC or fiber cement board, which allows us to create wider trims that you're seeing in these renderings, allows us to create the rake and eave trims that you're seeing, the same as if this were a fiber cement sided elevation. So it's a balanced approach of getting the right scale of detail with the less expensive siding material. And then this is the south elevation facing the gas station. Similar approach, the fiber cement wrapping around at the right vertical band of the building, and then transitioning to vinyl with all the fiber cement or AZAC trim to make everything have the same quality level of detail. Next. And then this is simply the elevation of the east end. This elevation, all fiber cement, combination of lap siding and panel with battens. Next. And then this is the north elevation. Or actually, no, that's not the north, it's the west elevation facing building 2. Next. And we put this in here as an example of just to help the committee visualize what it means to use vinyl siding in combination with AZAC or fiber cement trim. The image on the right is an all vinyl siding development with detail added at the windows and doors and eaves in a way that has a richness and higher level of detail than it would if we were to use just the standard vinyl trim. Next. So here's the material palette and the various colors that we're proposing to use on the project. Next. And then this is the updated landscape plan where we made some adjustments to the street tree locations. Our team did confer with the city in terms of their street trees that they recommend for this, for city streetscape trees. Next. And then we updated the lighting. There was some comments about lighting on the street, and that was definitely an oversight in the previous iteration. And we've added additional wall sconces along 45th and noted them on 44th as well, keeping all of them at a residential scale. So nothing commercial in nature. We didn't think that was appropriate on either of those streets. Next. And that is the updated presentation. Chad and myself are happy to answer any of your detailed questions. We need to go back and look at anything else in further detail.
Denver
Right,
and Chad, I appreciate.
I was just going to say before we get into the committee comments, we have received quite a bit of public comment, which has been shared with the committee. But we do have Jessica Beam here from our staff who is going to kind of share some summary of that with the committee before we get into it.
Nate Wells here from Ohio City. If he wants to start with that public engagement, then I'll do the public comment.
All right, good point. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nate Lowe with Ohio City Inc. I just wanted to briefly discuss some of the engagement we've done on this project. As I believe you're all familiar, but I'll just restate it for the record. So this project was at a community meeting in February of this year. The project plans, as they've evolved over time, have been posted on Corbinize, which is our community engagement website that we use for feedback, getting feedback from community members on development projects. I believe, the Corbinize page has over 445 comments at this point. So there's been a lot of, I think, commentary on this project that's generated a lot of interest over time. Some of the concerns that I'm sure Jessica's also going to highlight have been the parking and traffic safety of West 44th Street and West 45th Street, and then the height of Building 2 near the residential district. And we've also heard a lot of support for this project more recently as it's evolved again. And I believe Jessica has comments that we've kind of directed people to go through Landmarks to make their official public comment. But I did just want to briefly highlight that we've also been monitoring and gathering that feedback through Corbinize. So with that being said, I'll let Jessica kind of summarize the comments they received, but I just wanted to add that in there. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Nate. So yes, as mentioned, through our public comment process or official channels, we've received 30 comments since this was tabled in September. And those comments, 10 of those were supportive, 20 of those were in opposition to the project. The comments that were supportive mentioned the positive impact to the Lorraine corridor with this development, as well as support for increased density and development in Ohio City and on Lorraine. Comments that were in opposition to the project noted traffic and parking concerns, as Nate mentioned. They also noted the height of the center building would be is too tall at 5 stories, suggesting either setting it back as it goes into the residential district or, changing that in some way. They also noted the vinyl materials as siding and windows appropriateness for the historic districts. The use as of the Lorraine Avenue frontage for retail and a desire for more retail in that space. Pedestrian safety for walking around the units in that alley, where that pedestrian access and impact would be. Impact to the existing 2-family districts on 44th and 45th, as well as fitting into the context of the neighborhood, concerns about infrastructure, and also the balconies facing the residential along 44th. So that's really just a quick summary of the 30 comments that we've received before our deadline on Tuesday.
All right, thank you, Jessica. I guess with that, open it up to the committee.
I appreciate a lot of the little details, the refinement to the brick, things that you highlighted in the presentation. But I can be very short and sweet with my comments. I'm going to say the same thing that I think I've said every time. I think that center building is too many stories for the historic district. I think the massing and scale is not in keeping with the Secretary of the Interior standards. And I do not believe that the vinyl products, especially those windows, are appropriate for the historic district. So those are my comments. Others, please feel free to chime in.
I'll jump in and join Margaret. I agree with everything she just said. I don't need to repeat everything I said at our last meeting. Many of those items remain unchanged, but I will highlight that the prominent use of vinyl throughout the entire project, both in the windows and in the siding, I said at our prior meeting was a dispositive issue for me, that I could not support it, and that has not changed, and I cannot support this project for that reason alone, and in addition to many others, as Margaret has just stated. So I'll keep it brief, and that's it.
I just wanted to add my agreement with both Alex and Margaret.
I'll take a slightly more nuanced approach to the materials. I believe that any of the vinyl where exposed to an outward-facing street is a dispositive issue. Where it's on an interior face, I think it is more acceptable in this instance because of the application of the elevated trim profiles. Using the AZAC, using the board product as trim, I think is going to make up for the use of the vinyl lap siding product. I want to lean into some of the improvements on building 2. I appreciate some of the proportion, modulation that you've introduced. I think that's an improvement to the overall composition of that building. I still think that, actually in Congress with the public comment, that the north half of that building should step down 1 story to respond to the residential district behind it. If you're doing it on Lorraine, I think it would be appropriate to do it on the residential side. I think the material and the orientation shift at the top level to kind of evoke a penthouse type feel. I think it's a good decision. I think it's an appropriate and elegant solution to treat that top floor. And I think a further step would be to step down that north half. I think going back to materials, the corbels I think are a miss. I like corbels as much as anybody, but I think that they feel like a foreign material as an ornamentation on this project because they're not used anywhere else, and they feel like they're kind of attached haphazardly at the bottom of the singular overhang forms in the townhouse building 1, and I think they're also on 1A and 3. And yeah, this view actually is a good one. So the corbels are the one item on this building, as well as the awnings over the entry. I think the material of those is a little bit of a miss. I think they feel a bit odd when juxtaposed with the dark material. I appreciate that they're highlighting entry and noting entry. I just think the way that it's doing so is a bit I appreciate that it's intended to be a bit understated, but I think the material itself, the language, I just think it's a bit of an aesthetic miss. And my last point, I actually want to focus on the parking piece. I think the solution to go to one way is a good one, but this being a 20-foot wide one-way alley, I think lends itself to at least a study of lay-by parking. It's very close to supporting lay-by parking, being a private street. So I just wanted to ask if that was something that's been looked at.
We would need, the 20 feet is actually a requirement for the fire department access. We worked with the fire department,
Okay.
setting up this plan, and they need the 20-foot drive.
Okay, so they need 20-foot clear. Okay.
Yes.
Any other comments from committee members? So the same choice we've had a few times here, we can proceed with a vote, or we can, if you're in agreement to tabling with what you would like to come back based on what you've heard, then we can proceed with that.
Just a quick point of order. Since this has been tabled once before, staff would recommend proceeding with a vote, just to kind of keep things from sitting on tables and continuing through too many meetings. So, yeah.
Prepared to make a motion?
I'd like to ask a couple questions in response to some of the feedback, get some more clarity if you don't mind. Is that okay? So I guess in relation to the vinyl or vinyl windows, the 45th section of this property is not in the landmarks, and typically vinyl is okay in landmarks. Is it that building in particular? I guess which buildings with the vinyl windows and areas are you not in favor of?
So
Go ahead, Margaret.
go ahead, Alex.
The windows on the 44th side, use of vinyl on that building, and then the main building, if you're driving west on Lorraine and you're coming upon the gas station, that entire back wall there, and I highlighted this last time, is clad in vinyl. There's also vinyl on the Lorraine facing side. Those windows, I believe, as I read in the plans, are also vinyl. I think overall, a project of this caliber and scale and impact on the community for generations to come must be built with the appropriate building materials, and vinyl is not one of them.
Let me ask this. If it was cement board siding in the area, like you said, behind the gas station, even on the building where it faces the building 3 where it faces the gas station, if we changed our windows, any of the facade, like the Lorraine facade, what we're looking at, to a composite type of fiberglass window, I mean, with a black vinyl window, you end up most of the time in the same price as a fiberglass. Would those changes make you more supportive of the project?
We want to see those changes throughout the project, and not just on select facades. But in fairness to your question, I don't know that gets over the central issue that Margaret has raised with regard to the overall massing and layout of the project. But I'll let her answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alex and I are of similar mind. Like when I look at the study that shows other buildings that are, over 4 stories, they're blocks away from this building. And those are particularly monumental historic buildings along Lorraine. And that goes back to what Alex is saying about the quality of the building material. If we're going to approve something that takes on the scale of this project, and as you drive down Lorraine is something that stands out the way that the two buildings, shown here are, then it should be designed in such a way and made of materials that are appropriate for the historic district and long lasting. I mean, I would think as a building owner with tenants that you would want to be constructing this out of materials that have a long life.
Absolutely.
So I could be convinced to accept the mass and height of that second building if the material choice was consistent and of higher quality throughout.
Chad, this is Mia. Sorry, I don't have my camera turned on today, but I'm sick, home with a sick toddler. So I'm in agreement with Margaret's last statement. You've heard me say many times, I am comfortable with the massing presented with this project in this iteration, though would agree if you were willing to have a contingency to do all hardy and fiberglass throughout the project, that would be where the kind of where the line would be for me. And I also do want to echo Chris in the others that I do appreciate the added detail. And while I can appreciate the combination of the AZEK with vinyl, I just really would prefer to see it just go all the way, just go that last little bit and do it all the way. And in particular, would have concerns with the transition from hardy to vinyl on the side facades. I've seen that done several times. It really falls short, in my opinion. Just the treatment of wrapping it. So that's my 2 cents. I think if that were a contingency from that would be an approval from me.
Understood. And that this is something we've obviously considered. Number one, our goal is long-term ownership with all of our properties. So the durability, long lasting is utmost important in what we're looking to build. And like you guys mentioned, it's going to be here for a long time. It's not going away anytime soon once it's built. So I'm with you on that. I think there's some area for compromise from my own perspective. Like the 45th building, half of it is in hardy. The back half, which the street doesn't see, is vinyl. That one, I guess I would propose could stay the same. The main building, we did 41 West, where the main facade was brick, some hardy, and then a step back to all vinyl. For the sake of moving this along, I'd be amendable to changing that building to hardy siding. The main Lorraine facade, I don't think I have an issue with switching the called out vinyl window to a fiberglass composite type of window. The back facade where it wraps around, that's where I'd ask for some leniency on the window material. But giving the entire building, the main building two, the large one, a hardy siding, I think really changes the materiality and even cost significantly. The building 3, which is on 44th, I think that to me, weirdly, it's got multiple facades. I think that 44th, which is already in hardy, is something we would keep. The building where it faces the gas station, that because it is I agree with you all, it is a prominent facade that people are going to drive by and see that for a long time. That I could agree to changing into hardy as well. So I mean, I don't know if that how that works. The corbels, things like that, they were just added for detail elements. Even the overhang colors, that's something we could come back later and address. But I think getting you all comfortable with the overall massing and size is really my main goal right now. And I do want to also bring up with the north setback, it's something we've studied a lot. As Denver mentioned, it is recessed for the majority of it. If you look at this picture, when I don't think this package shows how close it is to the neighboring properties and what it's close to on those properties. The building or the home that's adjacent to us on 44th, it's their back garage, overgrown area. The property directly north of us on 45th is in support of the project, and that's a commercial use, again, setback off the property line. So we're 28 to almost 40 feet and then plus some on a lot of those. So we are pretty far back. Again, project that was approved in this board was the 41 West. We're 5 feet, 10 feet in different areas from single family homes. And it works. It steps up pretty large on the Randall 41st side. But I do think that it's not out of place, in my opinion, the north end of the building. I think it is pretty far set back, and even from some of the other versions, we've set it back significantly and obviously broken up all the buildings.
Chad, I really appreciate the compromise, and I think you've gotten us the way there. The problem with leaving some of the back sides in vinyl is that residents that are in the historic district look out their back windows and will see many stories, 3, 4, 5 stories vinyl if we leave it as is. And I don't think that's fair to them. We would not allow them to clad their home in vinyl. I think for a commercial developer, you have to go the distance and do it all in the quality materials of a historic district. But I do appreciate your compliments very much.
Just to be clear, Alex, I think maybe I misspoke. What I was saying was we would make the building 2 all hardy all the way around, and then building 3, there's actually only one window on that side house that faces that entire building, and similar to our Franklin West building, like I mentioned, 41 West, we have vinyl siding on the non-main fronts. Yeah, if you look at this picture, it's hidden behind that tree, but that's the only window that anyone would see anything out of. And frankly, I'm not sure what's in that window, probably a bathroom or something.
Chad, are you referring to the place along that the alley that you're creating there with on the screen?
Correct. Yeah, that house on the right there.
Right. But you're referring to that facade of your, I guess, building 3?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you would see, and as you see it here, I mean, this is taken presumably from street level and street view. You're still going to see all that vinyl back there. And as you drive or walk or bike, that, because of the alley, that in many ways is public facing.
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, honestly, we've already changed the first floor to hardy on that. I mean, we'd be fine agreeing to make the upper floors hardy as well.
And the fiberglass windows as well.
The sides there, I mean, we need to get into the cost of all that. I mean, the hardy is what people are going to notice. I mean, we're not looking to use like a cheap vinyl window per se that gives a bad image or doesn't have the profile detail of what a fiberglass window would have in comparison. But we would use a good quality, and we could even come back with that window selection to get approval.
I hear, in my mind, when I hear good quality vinyl, I hear an oxymoron. So I don't necessarily go along with that. But again, the use of quality materials throughout the project is paramount importance in my mind. And I think we're approaching 90% of the way on that issue.
If I could jump in quick on the vinyl window piece, just from kind of my own experience working around town. So there are vinyl windows that vinyl is kind of a misnomer. So could you clarify maybe if it is a polymer that we call kind of vinyl? It's more like a polymer based product that's kind of an in-between residential and commercial. Is that the intent for this?
Yeah, correct. Not,
Okay.
and like, not to be so blunt, not the cheapest window I can find, so to speak. A quality window, with cost, obviously, construction, everything, making this project happen is a challenge of its own, and obviously with all the concessions of the material, the main materials on the buildings, we want to deliver a nice product. So yeah, and that's where I mean, if we want to leave certain window details to a future, like I said, the color of the awning thing, little things like that, and we can work through that with this board and landmarks. I'm open to doing that as we can keep this moving along.
I think I personally would support the kind of revisiting and doing a final approval on windows separately to just so that we can get our eyes on that to make sure that that's acceptable. And then if I understand in summary, the last remaining, assuming that everybody's in agreement to make building 3 not vinyl anywhere, if I understand correctly, the last remaining surface would be the interior alley side face of building 1. Do I understand that correctly?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, it would be shown in the elevation picture. But yeah, what building 1, what faces the building 2 right there in the middle.
Okay, so I personally, conceptually don't have as much of an issue with this as any other facade. And because it's inward facing, even less so, but perhaps as a matter of longevity, if this were to be face brick or something more materially resilient up to say 8 feet above finished floor or to the datum of the garage doors, I think that would be more appropriate.
What we did at Franklin West, similar, again, we use vinyl and hardy there, is, and even 41 West where it wraps along those houses on Randall. I don't know if it was 3 or 4 feet, but kind of a waist height level for durability even. I have no issue with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to hear what my fellow committee members think about that, but I would be in support of that.
I don't know that I personally need face brick on this particular facade, but maybe just that bottom band in the hardy. I think I would be willing to compromise honestly on this back facade being vinyl. I don't know if like eliminating it everywhere else even still makes sense. Like it might be a little here nor there from a cost standpoint at that point, but I do appreciate, Chad, your ability, your commitment to changing the materiality more broadly. And I agree that we can revisit the windows with more particular products and information in the interest of keeping this moving forward. So I think for me personally, I think the hardy board materiality more broadly used, especially on the largest structure, was the most important and most important for me.
Yeah, I know there are window manufacturers, particularly in the polymer wing, that are trying to make inroads in Cleveland, and they're a very good product. They're comparable to fiberglass, and because they're trying to make inroads, I think they're coming in quite cost competitive, and their warranty is very, very good. We technically call them PVC windows, but they're not. They're a polymer product. They're very good, and they're aesthetically great.
All right, so are we then going to proceed with a motion with several of these changes described and leaving the windows for a later review?
I think so, Margaret. I think that makes sense at this point.
Okay, so if somebody could do that, please.
Does anyone? I can try to take a stab at it. Dan, are you taking notes so I can
I'll try and keep up.
keep track of this? Okay. I would say a motion to approve with the following contingencies. Building, building 3 to be clad in hardy board. Building 2 to be clad in hardy board versus vinyl in the areas applicable. Building 1, to my colleagues, do we want to see it all clad in hardy, or at the very least, hardy or comparable durable material on the bottom, on the first floor of the backside of the building. Is that accurate?
I agree with the second one.
And, okay, thanks. And that the applicant returns with product specific material for the windows throughout the project to be approved in a separate motion. So does that cover it?
That sounds good. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh wait, should I add in a consideration for the detailing on the awnings and the corbels? I think that's just a consideration though.
Yes.
Is that okay, Chris?
I think, yeah, I think that's appropriate consideration. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks. Sorry. That's it.
Do I amend my second?
I think I have everything. I'm just going to repeat it now just to make sure we're all on the same page. I have a motion to approve with conditions that building 1 be hardy with the exception of the east facade, but that the lower portion of the east facade be some sort of hardy-like durable material. Building 2 be clad in hardy, building 3 be clad in hardy, and that specific products be presented, as far as windows and the like, be presented at a later date prior to final issuance of the certificate of appropriateness, and then a consideration for the corbels and awnings to be reconsidered. Does that sum it up? All right, then I'll
We got it.
we'll leave it to you if there's any other discussion before we go for a vote. Guess we'll jump in. Mr. Frandorf,
No.
Ms. Flaherty,
Yes.
Ms. Lamb,
No.
Mr. Lozier,
No.
Ms. Marinucci,
Yes.
Mr. Persons,
Yes.
and Mr. Talley. Did I lose Phil? Did Phil disappear? All right. Well, without Phil here, that leaves us with a tie vote of 3-3. So that motion does not pass. To anyone, not sure where Phil went. Would anyone like to oh, okay, he did send a message saying he had to step out just a few minutes ago. Okay, does anyone want to make another motion?
Can you clarify, Dan? Like another motion?
Well, just the
To revoke?
motion that was the motion that was made ended up 3-3, so it did not pass because it does not have a majority approval. So I guess would anyone like to make a motion? I guess alter the motion or discuss how another motion might be crafted that would pass? I'm not sure if there are other
the-
conditions that
yeah,
might
I
make
think-
other people more comfortable, or
I think an alternative motion would be to approve with the condition that all materials, all vinyl materials be changed to hardy materials, and all vinyl windows be changed to a non-vinyl product.
Is that a first, or is that a
Well,
motion?
does
then?
the applicant agree to that?
I mean, you guys, if
I mean, can we
whether,
make,
yeah, I mean, if you can make whatever conditions you want, and then, you know, the applicant can determine if he, you know, basically he can, if he gets an approval with, you know, the second motion that's been made, that says no vinyl anywhere, he can, you know, before he comes to the Landmarks Commission, can run those numbers and say, I can afford to do this, or
okay.
I can't, so I don't have, you know, I couldn't
Mhm.
meet the conditions placed on the approval by the Ohio City Design Review Committee.
Okay.
Um, so Chris, was that a motion or was that just discussion?
I guess that's a motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Dan, I have another
Anyone?
clarification question.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know that we've ever had this where we ran a second motion. Does that mean if committee members who feel that that's too constrictive of a would then vote no?
Well, yeah, so I mean, I
That's
suppose that's up to you. Everyone, I guess, it's maybe a weird
Because
analogy,
we
but
just
everyone
in
kind
the-
of showed their hand on the first pass. So for people who voted, you know, and to approve on the first half or on the first vote that feel that this one's, you know, too heavy-handed, I guess in the interest of having a motion that passes, you could vote for it. Because yeah, we need, basically we need a motion to either approve with conditions or deny with, you know, you can attach conditions to that as well. But there's, yeah, we need to figure out a path forward here. So
Okay,
so even if it
Um,
feels heavy-handed, you can still vote for it.
okay, thank you. With that clarification from, I think I will second that motion.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. I feel like I need another sheet of paper here. Mr. Frondorf?
No, and to be clear, there were listed about 10 other items on the list that we did not address, and my initial comments were remarked on that, and that is the basis for my no vote.
Noted. Ms. Flaherty?
Yes.
Ms. Land?
Yes.
Mr. Lozier?
Yes.
Ms. Marinucci?
Yes,
And Mr. Persons?
No.
All right. Just seeing if Phil happened to come back in. The motion passes by a vote of 4-2. So the motion that passed was an approval with the condition that all vinyl siding be replaced with hardy, and that all windows be some sort of non-vinyl upgraded material. So with that, Chad will be in touch. I think we had you penciled in for the Landmarks Commission. I think it was next week. I'll have to double check, but we can talk this afternoon and confirm things. But yeah, your project was approved with those conditions.
Thank you, everyone, and I appreciate the feedback. I think we've definitely improved the project overall through this process.
All right. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Denver.
All right, thank you.
All right. Now move on to agenda item number 2, which is case OC 23-56, renovations at 4719 Franklin Boulevard. I believe we have Aaron here. Yep. So Aaron, if you want to walk through your project, just let me know when you want me to click through the slides. Just as a note beforehand, Carl, Jessica, and I all met with Aaron out in the field at his building a few weeks back to discuss this, and we provided him some feedback then. So so I guess his project is designed with that feedback in mind. So Aaron, when you're ready, take it away.
Sure. Thank you. Apologies, it's my first time doing this, so just bear with me, please. You can go to the next slide. So we're situated on Franklin Boulevard between West 47th and West 48th. Next slide, please. Here you'll see the left exterior of the house. You got the Bernie 2020 mural. I'll draw your attention to the windows in front. And in the picture on the right, the 2 vinyl windows on the upper street-facing portion here, which is in scope to replace. Next slide, please. Here is from the right side of the house. Again, you can kind of see through the trees here, these upper windows. Excuse me. And kind of see how everything's situated here. Next image, please. Later on, we're going to look at replacing some of the siding in the front. And so from here, you can see, the street view. You can't really see the left or the right side. It's just this main portion in the middle here that you can really see from the street. Next image, please. So the scope of the work would be new windows, repair and restoration of the upper top front area, and then siding and painting the remainder of the house. Next slide, please. We had talked about doing double hung windows with this grid. This proposal is to do this with this grid, and it'll consist of 2 windows in the front, 4 on the side, and 3 on the back. There were some windows that were previously boarded up by the last member. We had discussed maybe bringing those back, but I just don't think it's feasible at this time. Next image, please. The storefront windows, we would just want to replace with these single pane of glass commercial type windows. Next image, please. So the windows up top were actually previously made vinyl. We would be doing these bronze windows that you'll see the details of later. And the storefront windows, I've just kind of created this image here, but it would basically be 2 panes on the left and 4 panes, or actually I think 5 panes on the right, which is pretty consistent with what's there, but it'd just be an upgraded, better kind of look. Next image, please. Here's the product info for the windows. Working with Dan Ross on this, he suggested this architectural aluminum in the bronze. So that's what the proposal's for. You can read the reasoning here, but basically it's that the bronze is kind of historical and the material would be acceptable, hopefully. I don't really want to use the grid on the windows, so if it's okay, I'd prefer not to, but this proposal is to work with the grid. I'd love to hear your feedback on that. Next image, please. So this is kind of shows you the highlighted area here, shows you the front of the house that you can see from the street. You can see just a little bit of this left 2 panels here. You can see the main frame, and then on the right hand side you can barely see this stuff over here. But what we'd want to be doing is pulling off the shingles that are there, pulling off whatever other forms of cover is on the original siding, Probably pull that siding off too, and then just do like a wooden lap siding. Already have the material for this. And yeah, I think that covers that. Next image, please. So on the back of the house, we had initially discussed piecing in or replacing this siding. I've talked to a couple of people about doing that. It seems like it's not going to leave us with a very great product at the end of the day. We're going to have something that's not going to look great, and maintenance wise is going to be a large amount of work year after year. So I was thinking maybe just vinyl siding on the back. You can't see this from the street. We do have an alley behind us, but this proposal is to put up the vinyl siding. Next image, please. So this is the product that we would use. It's just a 4-inch double lap. Choosing the red, this red color, which is you'll see later on the color that we were gonna make the main body of the house and the brick structure in front. You can link to the product information here. Next slide, please. So I've gone back and forth quite a bit about color, and I would definitely take some feedback here if anybody had some. I think that this color combination is pretty in line with what I've seen in the neighborhood. I think it'd be nice to paint the bricks red again. I like these trim and accent colors. I think it'll be a good fit for the neighborhood, and I think it'll look nice. And I've just kind of used this coverall thing as a guidance just to kind of line up the colors. Next slide. Are we done?
Looks like that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. So that's the extent of the proposal. It's just the scope is those 3 items: the siding of the house, painting of the house, windows, and the repair and restoration of the upper front side. Thank you.
Aaron, I just have a couple questions for clarification. You're keeping the window opening in that storefront the same size, or are you making it larger?
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for asking. Can you go to a picture that shows the window front? Great. So you can see here there's this white border. So what we'd be doing is extending the windows up to the top and the bottom of this border. Honestly, it's really shabbily made, and it's just kind of like they've just tossed some paneling up there. The windows themselves are like plastic or fiberglass, and I mean I think it's just an opportunity to kind of refresh it, and I think it'll look a lot nicer with the windows being large. We are going to kind of maintain the same basic shape of 2 windows on the left-hand side and 4 or maybe 5 on the right-hand side, just depending on if there's like an engineering issue. I think Dan suggested that we do 5, but 4 is also possible, but this might be a little trickier. So yeah, to answer your question, that we would extend it, this white area would be gone, and it would just be windows in the front in those 2 spots.
Thank you. And then my second question was, you mentioned where you're using a wood material for replacement. Are you using like cedar lap siding or?
I don't think it's cedar. I actually don't have that information right now. Basically, when I bought this house, they had all the siding ready to go to do this section of the work. So I have a giant pile of this stuff, and I don't have the product information on it.
Okay.
I would like to use it if I can.
Okay. You don't think it's just pine though, do you?
I don't think so, no. I have no idea, to be honest. It's the same material that's on the right side of the building here. You can see in this lower portion. They had covered the right side of the structure with it. So it would also be consistent with what's here already on the house.
Okay. I mean, I think that the window selection makes sense. Personally, I wouldn't have a issue if you just did a single pane sash over a single pane sash without the grid. I think that that's fine. I would prefer that you use the wood material for the rear of the home and not the vinyl, or a hardy type material and not the vinyl. And I think that the color selection is appropriate. For painting brick, you want to make sure you get a breathable paint, and specifically an elastomeric paint for the health of the brick on the building. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Any additional comments, or does anyone want to make a motion?
Aaron, can you clarify where again you were proposing the vinyl?
Sure. So I guess it would be easier to just show you if you go to slide 11, I think, that shows the highlighted areas of the house. I have a different copy. Thanks. So the vinyl would be the area that isn't here, right? So it would be the side that you can't see, the back of the house, and the side on the right-hand side that you can't really see as well.
Okay.
There's quite a bit of damage to what's there. We had discussed maybe piecing it in. I'd prefer to use the vinyl just because of the longevity of the product, and that it does kind of look like a double lap anyway. But
do you have more photos of, like, I'm looking at the street view of the back side of the house, the alley side of the house. Is that accurate to what, do you know if that's accurate to what's still there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm looking at Google Street View on the alley side of the house.
Hold on.
And I'm just not sure what in the back and side is not visible to the street. I'm just trying to figure out where does it still look like this? Because I'm seeing.
Let me pull it up and see if I can. So you're in the alley behind?
Mm-hmm. In Wales Court.
Okay.
Because I'm seeing what looks like vinyl back there, what looks like.
Yeah, so they had previously done that. So the back of the house is vinyl. We're in the process of. Yeah, wow, okay. So what we've done back here is we've removed the slab. Eventually, long term, we'd like to put in some kind of better parking solution back here. We have started to remove, you can see, I forget the word for it, but the house is covered in this like fake brick.
Yeah, it's like an asphalt.
Yeah, material.
Yeah, insole brick.
Yeah, so we pulled that off, and started to pull off the wooden siding as well. So basically what's back here is exactly what you can see. I mean, it just really needs a refresher, you know?
Mhm.
And since there's vinyl back here already, I don't know. It's kind of
Would
hoping.
you, would you, and Dan and Jessica chime in if you were visiting the property and also might have more insight. Like when you, in your proposal for vinyl, would you be laminating over what we're seeing here? Would you be removing these things and doing any sheathing replacement or repair?
Yeah, sure. So we're working to get behind the sheet. Basically, I have to re-insulate the entire house. All the cellulose has, blown out or settled. So we're pulling it down to the sheathing, gonna re-insulate, and do everything appropriate, put the tie back up, and then would be another layer of the insulation, and then the vinyl siding.
So
Okay.
your plan is to use Provia with the fan fold?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris, what did you say? I didn't catch it.
I asked if they were going to use fan fold basically between the Tyvek and the siding for an additional, I think it's R4 provides you.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
a couple of R points, and also should just make it like a sturdier, give it some longevity.
And Aaron, is the interior of the house being gutted or
Yeah,
remaining
I mean,
intact?
we've started pulling stuff out. The plan was to get the exterior done and then kind of move inside.
Okay.
I'm actually inside of it right now.
Is this a person, is this your home or is this an investment? Can you
Yeah,
just a
I
little insight?
mean, uh, I bought it with the intent of living here, and then maybe it's like 2 units, so maybe renting out the other unit.
Okay.
I'm currently kind of camped out inside.
All right. I'm personally torn. I don't know if you listened to the presentation before this, which you probably, if you did, you heard our stance on vinyl. However, for me, there is a difference in a very large scale commercial development and a homeowner coming before us with that type of proposal. The property, I'm familiar with the property. Not overly familiar, but just hundreds of dog walks past this property over
Right.
the years, and I do know it's seen some changes. It seems to be in a decent amount of disrepair and or need of attention. So I'm kind of just torn. I would definitely not support any vinyl on the front end of the building, but you're not proposing that, from what I understand, and I think I would be open to allowing it on this back massing, if that helps make this project feasible for a homeowner. Um, that said, my preference or recommendation would definitely be to use the finish on the vinyl to be smooth rather than wood grain. I think it's it ends up looking more like real wood. Or it better mimics actual wood siding. It's kind of seems counterintuitive to most people, but it really cheapens it in my opinion to visually have the wood grain. And I think the palette you're proposing is appropriate and handsome. I don't have any comments there. I'm fine with that, and I'm also good with the window type and finish that you're proposing. So I think those are my my overall thoughts. Is I think I would be in agreement with what you're presenting, but I just wanted to make it clear, in my opinion, why vinyl is being a different consideration for vinyl on this property than previously.
I can definitely look into the different finish on the siding. I'd be open to that as well, as long as I can find the product they can sell it. I would go that direction.
Usually they offer, most I think offer both. So I think you should, hopefully we'll be able to use, find it within the same product line.
Yeah, I just don't know. I'll have to check. But yeah, definitely.
No new points here, just echoing some of the points that my colleagues have made. I believe the color palette is appropriate. And Tania's points about the siding or the vinyl siding on the back face, I think that's fine as long as you take into consideration the smooth finish. But keeping the wood siding on the front portion is fine. The windows, I don't think they have to be gridded if you didn't want them to be gridded. Personally, I think they're fine with just a single pane over single pane, but yeah, just wanted to throw that out.
Okay. Thank you.
So I know I'm not on the committee here. I'm just taking notes, but I was curious if I missed the in the discussion about siding, vinyl siding on the rear. Will it match the color of the siding on the rest of it, or how will that be handled?
Right, absolutely. So what I was thinking was that the main body of the house is this sort of red color, which we've matched with the siding. And then what I was hoping to do is the front area that we're replacing with the wood to be this lighter color, the trim color, basically. And so what that would do is you'd have this nice the red brick building in front, the red brick in back, and then this band of the trim color. I think it would look really sharp. Yeah. So everything else would be red, and then this section here would be like a white section, which is in line with what I've seen with a lot of the houses out here as well. But open to thoughts on that. I'm not married to it. So yeah, so everything would be red except for this area, and this would be the lighter color.
Would anybody, I guess, have any other feedback, questions, comments, or anyone want to make a motion?
Would someone like to make a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve as presented with the condition of using a smooth grain vinyl only at the rear of the property. The rear massing, I should clarify, of the property.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mara. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead with roll call. Looks like we lost Mr. Frandorf. Ms. Fleury?
Yes.
Ms. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. Lozier? Chris? Is that a...
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Wasn't sure if you responded and it cut out or what, but Ms. Marinucci
Yes.
and Mr. Persons.
Yes.
All right, we have the motion passes unanimously. So we have an approval with the condition that smooth finish vinyl be used on the rear massing of the building. So Aaron, I'll be in touch about next steps, but I'm not sure. I don't did you have a permit application pending at this point?
No, I was gonna wait
Okay.
for this to go through and then
Okay. Cool. We can chat this afternoon about next steps.
please.
But yeah, congrats.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All right, with that case being concluded, we are done with our agenda items with, I guess, only 2 items. Still felt like quite a meeting. So yeah, I guess Margaret, if you want to adjourn, we can.
All right, the October 19th Ohio Design Review meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. And thank you for chairing today.
Sure.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, bye, everyone.
I'll see you.